Good afternoon. How are you today? Well, I'm pretty excited because Steve Bannon is stuck in a cul-de-sac. He it looks like he's going to be convicted any day now of contempt, as he should be. And there are two counts of it. One is that he didn't testify, didn't show up to testify, and the other is he didn't produce any documents. And so each of those is a 1 year misdemeanor. The some people have reported it's like $100,000 fine. There's not at all. It's I think it's $1,000. I'm not sure. But let's consider what's going on here. First of all, people should understand that Steve Bannon and Rudy Giuliani apparently are joined at the hip in this offense. And it doesn't surprise me. And one of the reasons that I see a connection is because Rudy Giuliani's counsel for his problems has been Bob Costello. And he was a former assistant U.S. attorney. We had offices next door to each other when we were puppy prosecutors, if you will. And so Bob now represents both Rudy and Steve Bannon. Okay, so I don't know how you do that unless you've waived any possible conflict. And so in the legal trade, you would say they had a unitary defense. So another way to look at it is if either one of them talks about the others, it'd be deep problems. So here we have Mr. Bannon trying to say, look, I'm going to cooperate. Now I'm going to talk to them. Aren't you going to now dismiss it? Can I use that as a defense? And the judge said, no. And the prosecution, the Department of Justice, said, hey, look, he committed the offense. That's it. Now, you might say, well, is that fair? Well, yes, it is, because this is how you argue it. I mean, as the defense counsel. He gets convicted or he pleads guilty. I recommend he pleads guilty because he gets more consideration that way. And he does testify to the House committee. And so he gets credit at sentencing for accepting responsibility and for talking to the committee. He doesn't do that. He goes to trial. He gets convicted. And they may do that. And the judge, well, for these two offenses, gives him as close as he can to 2 years, given the gravity of the offenses, that is, all that he's gone through, the machinations. And he's presented these spurious defenses, you know, that executive privilege when he wasn't working in the White House, and a privilege that runs only to Biden, the present president, not to Trump, the former. I guess we could still call him president, although it makes me uncomfortable to do so. So where do we go from here? Well, if I'm a committee and he has to show up, I get him to show up before the trial if I can, because I certainly want him before he's convicted and perhaps is in an orange jumpsuit somewhere, how appropriate that would be. So that's how I see the Bannon thing shaping up. You may remember when I was on with Ari last Friday, I said that it was a Trojan horse. That is, he was presenting himself as a gift, but it was what was hidden inside, which were his venal motives, if you will. So he's been caught short, and now they have to go and scramble and figure out what they're doing. And I don't know if I just can't imagine that Bob Costello isn't embarrassed by the arguments he's making. I know he is smart, and I know he's better than this, but well, I think it's sad. A lot of us who are former U.S. attorneys who know all the players and used to see them in an annual dinner, we don't know what happened to Rudy for sure. Bob has been taking positions on behalf of his clients, I suppose, Bob Costello. So what else is on my mind? Another area that's curious and controversial and difficult is having Congress shoot down the cloture vote, meaning you don't need 60%, it's a super majority. You need just a majority, like every other vote in the House and across the country. And then what are we going to do with that? Well, what we're going to do is, it's proposed by Biden, is then we will seek to have a majority vote that says you can have abortions across the United States. Now, there's one principle here that we have to consider, legal principle, and It is the following. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land, meaning a statute that contradicts the Constitution, false, is not effective at law. So how would that work here? Well, the way it would work is we pass the statute I prescribed, and somebody says that the freedom to have an abortion is itself unconstitutional. Now, I'm not going to suggest any legal arguments that would support that, but you don't need legal arguments when 5 of the justices will rubber stamp anything against abortion because that's how they got there. I don't know what John Roberts would do in that situation, but 5-4 is 5-4, and maybe it's not as good as 6-3, but there it is. There's another worse thing that could happen here, is if we don't get our act together and prosecute a hell of a midterm election strategy, we could have a Republican Congress and a Republican Senate, and they could pass a law that said no abortions were permitted under any circumstance. And if that law was passed, the Supreme Court would probably uphold it. Now, there's always a possibility that we'll lose 1 or 2 members of the court. But, Biden could probably find good nominees. But if the House and the Senate went Republican, could we get them passed? Would we have a worse case than we had with Obama, in which they sat on these nominees for years, which would mean the court would be less that number? I think that the Roe v. Wade question is really an election year issue, and that it won't be dealt with, and we won't succeed at it unless we take it to the polls and we convince the people that what's happening to women is a taste of the deprivation of individual rights and liberties for others, for everybody else, and that this is a government that is a fascist government that they would install, and these are steps toward that. And there's plenty of evidence of it. When you're actively trying to choose laws and ways to overthrow an election in 2024 so that Trump can return or somebody like him, well, then you know that the table is off tilt. I was once asked in court about did I know enough about a certain area of the law to contradict a patent lawyer. And I said to the judge, you don't have to be a carpenter to tell the table is crooked. The judge got upset with me, and I said, you're only upset because my riposte was better than his criticism of me. And the judge remained silent because, I don't know, maybe because it was true. Holly is now working on a puzzle. She wanted to do it. She thought she would do it when she came home. And she's been so eager to strengthen herself that she does that. And so now she's opened the puzzle and she's sorted out the pieces and she's going to work on it. More power to her. So that's it for today. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. All the rest. Bye-bye.